When people talk about hidden money in a marriage, the story usually goes one way. One person lies, the other one finds out. And from there, the roles are obvious: villain and victim. But there's another version of this story that plays out in a lot of stable, happy-looking marriages. And honestly, it's stranger than the first one. In this version, both people have a little account the other one does not really know about. Each of them puts a small amount of money into it every month, and somewhere in the back of their minds, they both suspect the other one is doing the exact same thing. Still, neither of them has ever said a word about it out loud. And that is where it starts to get interesting. Because what is happening here is not really two people lying to each other. It is closer to two people quietly agreeing on something without ever having the conversation. And that deal starts running the marriage in ways neither of them notice. Who has the power when a new job offer shows up? Who can afford to take a chance, and who has to play it safe? What happens when they need to decide about moving, having another kid, taking care of an aging parent? On the outside, these look like decisions the couple is making together. Underneath, each person is doing different math, and only half the numbers are on the kitchen table. And neither of them really sees this happening. To each of them, that little account just feels like nothing. Just something personal, nothing worth mentioning. We will come back to what it actually is in a minute. But first, think about a marriage this way. It does not really run on one money pot. It actually runs on three. There's the shared pot. That's the one that pays the mortgage, the electricity, the groceries, the insurance, the kids' school stuff, the family trips. When the couple says our money, this is what they mean. Then there are two private pots, one for each person. These hold the stuff that would cause a conversation if it went through the shared pot. The shared pot is the one the marriage runs on officially, while the private pots are where the marriage actually lives. Three things keep this whole setup going. The first one is the price of talking about it. Every money conversation in a marriage has a cost: time, tension, follow-up questions, the risk of an argument that ruins the next morning. Couples figure out pretty quickly what each kind of conversation will cost them. Going over on groceries. Cheap to talk about. A $400 hobby purchase? More expensive. Moving money into a personal investment account? In a lot of households, way too expensive to bring up. So the couple does what any two reasonable people do when something keeps getting more expensive to discuss. They stop talking about it. The second thing is what that private account actually gives you. It's not really about the money. Most of these people have zero plan to ever leave. The account is about feeling like you could handle something on your own if you had to. That feeling is worth a lot. People hold on to that feeling even when they'll never use it. The third thing is the quiet rule. As long as neither person asks, neither person has to answer. The whole thing works because nobody looks. Because the second one person opens the other one's account, the whole setup has to get renegotiated. And both of them know, without ever saying it, that the renegotiation would cost way more than the account is even worth. That's the whole machine. A conversation that keeps getting more expensive. A feeling of independence neither person wants to give up. And an unspoken deal to not look. Let me show you what this looks like in a real-life household. Picture a regular couple. Both work. They bring home about $9,000 a month together. Mortgage, groceries, school fees, insurance, all paid from the joint account. He has a personal account. $400 a month goes into it. She has her own. $350. Neither one has ever shown the balance to the other. Neither one has ever been asked. If you pushed either of them on why the account is even there, they'd give you a fuzzy answer. It's for personal stuff. It's just easier. Both of them know that answer isn't the whole truth. Neither one pushes. Nothing about this looks wrong. There's no affair. Nobody's gambling. Nobody's planning to leave. The accounts are there, on both sides, and they're actually protecting the marriage more than hurting it. He uses his $400 on things he'd rather not argue about. She uses her $350 on the same kind of stuff. These accounts soak up all the small preferences that would otherwise turn every dinner into a negotiation. At this size, the numbers barely matter. Sounds small, right? Well, it doesn't stay small. Now give the same couple 5 more years. A promotion comes in. The income goes up. Her private account has been getting $700 a month, plus whatever interest it earns, plus the occasional bonus she mentioned at dinner as being smaller than it actually was. It holds about $62,000. His holds about $18,000. Their joint retirement account, the one they both contribute to openly, holds $70,000. The two private accounts added together hold more than the joint one. The household is now running a second retirement plan that nobody ever proposed. She's 44,000 ahead of him in private savings. That gap didn't exist 5 years ago. It got built, a little bit at a time, by a system nobody named. She hasn't hidden a single transaction. She just routed part of her money through an account he knows about and has never looked at. He's done the same thing, just at a smaller scale. Neither one would call themselves dishonest. Neither one is planning to leave. But if the marriage ended tomorrow, the money picture each of them would have to put on the table would be pretty different from the one they've been carrying around in their head. A tiny release valve, running for 5 or 6 years on 2 incomes, ends up creating an imbalance big enough to change what the marriage actually is. And it happens long before either of them notices anything changed. And the moment that imbalance starts making decisions for them is the next time a real family choice shows up. That's where it gets meaner. A few years earlier, this same couple had a fight about a boat. He wanted it. She thought it was a bad idea. The fight dragged on for 2 weeks and ended the way those fights usually end. No real resolution. He didn't buy the boat. She didn't back down on the principle. The conversation just stopped. That was the last real money conversation they had. Since then, each of them has been quietly building their own position. His is in crypto and collector watches. Hers is in a brokerage account he's never seen, and a loan to her sister's catering business that's earning her interest. Neither of them made a decision to hide anything. They just stopped bringing certain things into the shared space. From the outside, nothing looks wrong. Bills are paid. Vacations still happen. The house runs the way it always has. But underneath, the structure has changed. That boat fight did not disappear. It moved. It turned into his watches and her catering loan. 2 private channels where each of them could act without reopening the conversation they never finished. And the cost of finally talking about it has been growing the whole time. 4 years ago, the conversation would have been about a small amount of money in a 2-week argument. Awkward, but doable. Today, it's about 4 years of silence, and a habit of not asking that's now older than a lot of other things in the marriage. The conversation isn't even about money anymore. It's about the 4 years. They're not avoiding the conversation because they're scared. They're avoiding it because by now it costs too much to afford. And here's the part couples almost never catch while it's happening. Those private accounts aren't storage. They're a second way of voting inside the marriage. Every big household decision is being run through 3 accounts, not 1. The couple votes out loud on the shared account, and each person also votes quietly, using their own private account as a kind of backup plan. The decision that comes out looks like a joint decision. It's actually the result of 3 votes, and only one of them is showing. When a job offer comes in, or a question about another kid, or a move, the conversation happens on the shared account. But she's weighing it against a picture that includes her private 62,000. He's weighing the same thing against a picture that includes his 18. They're not doing the same math. They're not even doing math that looks alike. The decision still gets made. The mortgage still gets chosen. The job offer still gets accepted or turned down. But by this point, they're not even working with the same numbers anymore. This is the real damage, and you almost can't see it from inside the marriage. The couple feels like they're making decisions together. Those decisions are actually the compromise between 2 different private pictures, filtered through a shared account that's been missing half the information the whole time. And then it starts showing up in the mood of the house. When the private balance is up, the person holding it is more relaxed at home, more willing to let small shared spending slide. When the private balance is down, that same person gets tighter, more stubborn about spending that felt totally fine the week before. Neither of them connects the mood to the account. They think it's about the marriage, the kids, work, the weather. The account being private doesn't feel like something that should be affecting dinner. It's affecting it anyway. 2 bad assumptions keep this whole thing running. The first one is that hidden money means somebody's getting ready to leave. In these marriages, the opposite is usually closer to the truth. Someone who's actually planning to leave doesn't need a little private account. They need a lawyer. The person keeping a private account for years is usually the one who's decided, without ever saying it, that the marriage is worth keeping, and that keeping it means leaving some things out of the shared conversation. The account isn't an exit plan. It's a quiet payment for peace the shared account can't buy on its own. The second assumption is the one that keeps couples stuck. They think the problem is the hiding. The hiding is the result. The problem is the unfinished fight that made the hiding make sense in the first place. The account is the leftover from a decision the couple made, usually without even noticing they were making it, to stop talking about a certain part of their life together. The account is where that decision gets stored. Closing it doesn't fix the original decision. It pushes the fight back onto the shared account, where it got shut down the first time for reasons that haven't changed. This is why the usual advice almost never works. Open the books, share all the passwords, promise to tell each other everything. That advice treats the account like the disease. It's the bandage. Rip it off without dealing with the thing underneath, and within a year or two, the couple has either built a new set of private accounts or come up with a new way to avoid each other in its place. The account is not the thing to fix. The account is the record of what the couple stopped fixing. And the danger here has nothing to do with the account itself. The size of it does not really matter. How long it has been sitting there does not really matter either. Even getting caught is not the thing. The real danger is in the decision both of them made once and never went back to. The decision to stop asking. And the account is where that decision quietly builds up over time. Every month it grows a little. Every year it gets bigger. Every life choice that gets quietly routed around it makes it heavier until eventually the couple isn't hiding money from each other anymore. They're hiding from the version of the marriage they'd have to build if they ever put both accounts on the same table. So all along, the third person in the marriage was never actually a person. It was the conversation neither of them ever had, and it has been running the whole household the entire time. If this gave you a way of seeing things you didn't have before, this is what I do on this channel. I map out the hidden systems shaping your marriage and your money. Most of what's really driving your relationship isn't visible until someone lays it out. That's every video here. Check out my other videos and I'll see you in the next one.